Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a continuation of the highly successful and extremely entertaining Into the Spider-Verse. And here Miles Morales catapults across the multiverse, where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. When the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles must redefine what it means to be a hero. The last film was one of the most surprising I'd ever seen, which I imagine is something that Lord and Miller, the film's writers, are tired of hearing because they've been involved in a lot of movies that people go to thinking it's going to not be the greatest film ever and leave thinking that was the greatest film ever. And they keep hearing that a lot, but I think that's going to start dying down now because they keep making great films. Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman wrote the first film, and this film is written by Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Dave Callaham. And just like with the first film, as well as most films that Lord and Miller have their hands in, this film is incredibly fast-paced, where information is just being fed to you so quickly, and jokes are being thrown at you so fast that you can miss them sometimes. They've already gone to 2 or 3 more jokes, and you're still laughing about the last one that happened a minute ago, and you're trying to catch up. And it makes all the films that Lord and Miller are involved in very rewatchable because you're constantly missing things and picking up on them on the second and third or fourth viewing. But now most people are going to be walking into this film knowing how good the first one was. In fact, most people rank it as one of the best comic book movies ever made, as do I. And so the film has a lot to live up to. And I think it really met those expectations. Across the Spider-Verse is a film that made me feel like a kid again. And I mean that in a very specific way. I don't mean that I felt like a joyous, nostalgic little boy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that as we get older, there are things we lose. There are things that once seemed truly amazing to us that no longer do because we've either seen it a lot before or we're becoming jaded, or in my case, I know how something is made. When I see a film, I tend to know how they did it. There are a few occasions where I will see something and I have no idea how they pulled it off. But it doesn't happen that often. A lot of times we tend to look at something and just think, visual effects, CGI, that's the answer. And sometimes it is, but even those elements take incredible amounts of planning, work, and you have to know exactly how to achieve it. While watching Across the Spider-Verse, I found myself truly overwhelmed. There are so many art styles in this film. Endless amounts of characters and detailed characters. It's not just like little dots on the screen. Like everyone has fully fleshed out character design. The different universes that Miles and Gwen jump around in all have different art stylings, sometimes based in the comic books of the era and that look, or old cartoons, or TV shows, or even movies. While watching the film, I really did feel like a kid in that I had that genuine sense of awe that I have lost for so many films because I know how movies get made. While watching this one, I was overwhelmed by the craftsmanship, the sense of movement with these characters, the feeling of weight and gravity that is so difficult to achieve with visual effects, or in this case animation, is perfect. The way they fly around these environments and twist their bodies and contort them into movements, poses, interactions, it's all just gorgeous looking. And that is to say that just like the first, this film has loads of style. It is oozing it. Every sequence just feels so damn cool, and yet it is filled with depth and substance. Every character is on a journey that feels relatable. Everyone has family dynamics that feel real. And the choices these characters make feel like the hardest they've ever had to make. They're constantly put in scenarios that challenge them and that ask them who they are and ask them to rise above themselves. And that's, of course, Spider-Man, or any good superhero story really, but especially Spider-Man stories. You always have regular people who are forced to do things that they don't understand, but they're doing it anyway, and they're trying to protect their loved ones, and knowing that if they continue forward doing what they're going to do, it's probably going to hurt their loved ones. And most Spider people stories have that involved with it in some way, and the film also wisely pokes fun at that. It understands all of the history of spider people. It knows when to make jokes about that, and it knows that we know the history too. In some ways, though, the film does feel like it has to remind us about a lot of things. It has to catch us up fairly early on with voiceover that reminds us things that happened. And then when we see Miles again, we are once again given a voiceover. In fact, he even says a variation of, let's do this one more time, and then talks about his backstory. Sometimes that aspect of the movie can feel like, yeah, I know, let's go. Let's get going. I already know this. But some people don't, and for those people who watched the movie who didn't see the first, I get that that's going to help them. But I just feel like we're past that. I feel like we're past the era where we need to catch everybody up. The only times I think that makes sense is if you're, for some reason, getting a sequel to a movie where the first was successful but kind of modestly. If there were any aspects of the film that dragged at all, I think there might have been just a bit too much family drama early on. For the film that we watch play out, it feels like there was more than we needed. That being said, most people know there is a third film coming next year, and some of that might bleed into that narrative. So I'm going to reserve judgment on saying that they had too much of that until I see the full trilogy arc. I thought this was absolutely spectacular. I think these two films are, like the first, genuinely two of the best comic book films ever made. I think that people are really going to like it. Miles is a great hero. He's put in so many situations where I don't know what they're going to do, and I find that extremely exciting. It's very difficult to predict, which is why I've said nothing about the plot, really. There are so many surprises and fun things along the way that I am very excited for fans to see, and I really do think the movie is going to make you happy. It made me very happy, so definitely see it in theaters, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.